Good afternoon, everybody. We will call the regular town council meeting of June 14th to order. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. He wanted to say here tonight. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for all your blessings. Sometimes we forget how fortunate and lucky, and just how many great, wonderful things that you make possible for us. Tonight, I just want to ask one thing from you, and that's to watch over the family, the Bush family, as they are once again going through some really, really hard times. Please watch over them as as I know you will do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Next is adoption of the agenda. Mr. Cease, any changes or additions?
No, ma'am, none that we know of yet.
Okay.
Everybody shows up for presentations.
Great. With that, is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
There's second. I think Larry's second. Any discussion? All in favor, saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. We have changed our executive session, as you all know now. So is there a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters? That's FOIA 3470A1. And that's relating to boards, committees, and commissions, and also personnel matters relating to town manager annual review, and that's Act 3470A2.
So moved.
There's second. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We will move in here. executive session. No votes were. What? Oh, thank you. No votes were cast. No action was taken. Thank you all for being here. And we will get started. There is action from executive session, and it's on boards, commissions, and committees. Hold on 1 second. I'll read them all out. We are appointing and reappointing several members on our boards, commissions, and committees, and if any of y'all would like to be part of that, we'd love for you to apply. We have some openings on tax and beautification and mini boards, so please seek him or go on our website and see where you could probably help participate. So on accommodations tax, I've said so I'm going to do one long motion. We are reappointing Tim Wood and Ellen Shoemaker. Beautification Committee, we are appointing Ashley Beard and Dan Shafrida. On Board of Zoning Appeals, we are reappointing Jerry Workman, or there's a motion to reappoint Jerry Workman. On Construction Board of Appeals and Adjustments, David Donnell, Scott Middleton, and Mike Vaccaro would like to be reappointed if approved. On Historic Preservation Commission, a reappointment by Jesse Solomon and Josh Simpson. Planning Commission, a reappointment of Charlie Wetmore, Jim Flynn, and if the proposed changes to Agenda Item 11, Chapter 23, UDO Article 2, Administration, Boards, Commissions, member terms is approved on second reading tonight with a term expiring of 6/30/25. We would appoint Amanda Denmark and Wall of Honor, Anna Laura Harrell, and finally Beaufort Jasper Water Board of Directors, Michael Bell. That's the motion.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Did that make sense on Amanda? Okay. All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Adoption of the minutes. We had 3 different meetings. First were the regular meeting minutes of May 10th. Are there any changes? If not, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next are our budget workshop meeting minutes of May 24th, 2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. And finally, our budget workshop meeting minutes of May 26th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So
Is
moved.
there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. We have a few presentations. I was down there with you, Kim. The Beaufort County School District Character Student of the Month. Malachi Hammer. Oh, is that I say your name right? Come up, y'all. Don't make her come up by herself. Hi. How are you? What grade are you in? Oh my gosh, you're so tall. The teacher's here. Oh, where's the teacher? Come. We want all of council to be behind you. Are you proud of your sister? Brother?
He's got really long hair.
You are. I like your hair. I was just with someone that had her hair like yours. Hi. Talk to us about this,
Oh, okay.
Mr. Malachi.
So Malachi was a kindergartner this year at River Ridge Academy. And April's character education trait of the month was the character trait of forgiveness. And as you know, kindergartners are starting to build relationships. It's their first year in school. And everyone noticed, and especially Malachi's teacher noticed, that he was very quick to make friends in class. When there would be disagreements, he was very quick to forgive other students and just did a great job this year and made a lot of really great friends and meaningful relationships. So very proud of him this year.
That's very exciting. My son had hair like that. I should have had him braid it. He put it in a ponytail way up here. But I like it. Congratulations, you raised a fine young man. Malachi, you have you can get this framed. It will be great. You ever?
Call it so they get a picture of it.
Yes, and the second thing is a really cool coin that we only give to our student of the month. So it's a challenge coin. So you have, you're one of few that get that. Okay. And thank you for being the principal. Do you want anything to say? No. Well, we love having you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and all of council is just so proud of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you
Congratulations.
so very much. Next is Juneteenth proclamation.
Excuse me, for May, the character ed student of the month for May is Catherine Young.
That's next month.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, we won't be here next month.
Could we do that now?
We'll give you the plaque and the coin.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. It's Juneteenth this coming weekend, and it gets bigger and bigger. And the town, before it was a national holiday, made it a holiday, because we know it's very important. So Jackie, thank you for being here to accept this. Whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared the enslaved peoples in any state or designated part of a state to be thenceforward and forever free. Whereas this proclamation paved the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, federal orders were read in Galveston, Texas, reaching the authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States who had not yet received word of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Whereas June 19th has since become known as a Freedom Day or Emancipation Day, a holiday that commemorates the announcement of the abolition of slavery in Texas in June 1865, 901 days after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Lincoln. Whereas the Bluffton Juneteenth celebration is sponsored and hosted annually by the Bluffton MLK Observance Committee with the 7th Annual Juneteenth Festival 3-day event. Whereas the town of Bluffton recognizes Juneteenth as an important opportunity to honor the principles of the Declaration of Independence and to celebrate African American freedom, education, and achievements, and to reflect on the continuous significant contributions of African Americans to the Bluffton community, the state of South Carolina, and across our nation. The elected leaders of the town of Bluffton and town staff are committed to pursuing the ideals of justice, equity, and peace, and encouraging respect for all cultures among all our residents. Now, therefore, in recognition of the 157th anniversary of the emancipation of all people who were enslaved in the United States of America, I, Mayor Lisa Sulka, of the Bluffton Town Council, and staff, and all of the residents of this town will declare June 19th, 2022 as Juneteenth Day in the town of Bluffton, and also designating it as a Town of Bluffton holiday. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And is there anything you want to say about the weekend talk? Does she need to go to the,
It picks up.
okay.
I just want to say thank you. The town support, it means a lot. It does mean a lot. From the banners to everything, it does mean a lot.
And it's going to be at the distillery for the most part.
Yes, distillery, Saturday and Sunday, Bluffton Eagles Field, Friday.
Friday, Bluffton Eagles Field. It's on all of our social media, and it really has become a fun, very big crowded event. So
Yes.
we're excited. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Jackie. Okay, guys. I know the family. So Rich, hey. I know you, Catherine.
School counselor.
I knew this little girl when she was a peanut. And what grade was she now? 5th grade. And what was your character trait?
Yes, she is.
Cooperation and responsibility. That's what you got to. Red cedar, owl.
Of course you do. Were you part of the Domino cereal boxes several years ago?
That was very cool. Okay, who would like to talk about this young lady?
I can read what her teacher said about her, and that will tell you all you need to know about Catherine as a student that really is cooperative and responsible. When I think of cooperation and responsibility, I think of one person in my classroom. Catherine is willing to work with anyone and accept anyone. There are countless situations that come to mind when she has stepped up to accept and work with anyone, but one instance stands apart to demonstrate these qualities. There were 2 students in my classroom that had no one to work with for the first 2 weeks of school. They were new to the school, and everyone in the classroom had known each other for previous years and immediately grouped up with their friends. Catherine went out of her way and grabbed both new students to join her group. She wanted to ensure that those students were not left out, especially in this new environment. She made sure they felt accepted. She's very inclusive and cooperative during academic groupings as well as social groupings, such as recess. She's the first person asking others to join in whatever she's doing that day. She's also an extremely responsible individual. If she knows she's going to miss any school, she asks to take quizzes to get assignments completed early as not to fall behind. She's always prepared for class and a student who seeks out additional responsibilities. She's always looking out for her fellow classmates, and if someone's absent, she will ensure all the learning items for that day are organized and ready for their return. She will also offer to review the items with her classmate upon their return. She is a true leader and an exceptional student who demonstrates the qualities of responsibility and cooperation consistently.
Wow. But I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, come on over here.
Seriously, and Dr. Crowley.
And Sophia is our AP.
Oh, hello here. Yes. All right, we will get you your certificate and your sound toy, and you'll have their information. Yeah, here. Good. Congratulations. Okay, next is National Gun Violence Awareness Day Proclamation. Come Devon and Kima, if y'all could come up, and anybody else who's with you can come with you. I know this is tough to do, but thank you for being here because I think it's important. Dewan and Kima Fields are here to, Brian, I'm sorry, we're here to accept this. Whereas every day 316 Americans are shot. Of those shot, 106 Americans are killed, leading to nearly 30,000 deaths every year. Whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other developed countries. And whereas in January 2013, Hadiah Pendleton, a teenager who performed during President Obama's second inaugural parade, was tragically shot and killed just 1 week later, would have celebrated her 22nd birthday this June. Whereas July 15th, one of our own, Dominique Williams, was tragically taken from his family and from his community because of gun violence. And whereas in honor of Hadiah inaugural, I don't know where we added Dewan, but we're going to put Ann Dewan and DJ Fields. It's not added in here, I'm sorry, we'll get that in there. Are the 106 Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shooting every day. A national coalition of organizations has designated the first Friday of June as Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadiah's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, choosing this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters in the woods, and because orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. Whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange, really this entire month, but we put orange ribbons up on June 3rd around all of our town offices to raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. Whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to keep our children safe. Whereas I, Lisa Sulka, Mayor of the Town of Bluffton, and everyone in this chamber, along with council, did proclaim June 3rd to be recognized as National Gun Violence Day in the town of Bluffton to honor and remember all the victims and survivors of gun violence and to declare a country we must do more to reduce gun violence. I appreciate y'all being here because I know it's very hard, but we've all been meeting. We were at a group talking about it, about doing things and not just talking about it, and I think we all committed to doing something. And as hard as it is for you to be here, I know you know we love you, and things are en route to start making true change. So thank you, Kima, and thank you. Okay.
I'm gonna do one more. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate all of this. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for that. Next, we have a presentation on the 2022 Transportation Sales Tax Referendum. Eric Clausen, nice to see you. And Charlie Wetmore was our representative on this Sales Tax Committee, and he is here if we have any questions of the committee after the presentation. So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of council. You got the B team tonight. I've been on the job for a total of about 7 weeks, but I did get a chance to sit with the committee that Charlie served on and be able to see the hard work that they put towards putting this presentation and making this proposal to county council. So with that, we really have to talk about the history of where this was. So we had a 2018 transportation sales tax that it was a $120 million tax. It was supposed to be in place for 4 years. It was one or the other. It either collected $120 million or was in place for 4 years. It was apparent as we went into 2021 that tax was actually going to be ahead of schedule. So county council had discussed the potential for an additional or for a new 1 cent sales tax at a council retreat in November of 2021. So then, as anticipated, in 2018, the sales tax expired in December. Furthermore, there was discussion by county council at the January 2022 meeting about the future of that particular sales tax. So on February 7th, County Council passed a resolution establishing a citizen committee. We call it the Transportation Advisory Committee, or TAC Committee. This was made up of 17 members, citizen members, 1 member from each one of the 11 council districts. So I've got them listed here, all the ones that are pertinent to town of Bluffton. So we had District 5, which is Jerry Reeves, District 6, John Craig Forrest, District 7, Penny Ellingsworth, District 8, Charles Perry, District 9, Bill Fuge. And then our 1 member from each of the 6 municipalities. So again, your representative for town of Bluffton was Charlie Wetmore. So again, we want to thank those members. They put a lot of hard work and discussion into really streamlining and really being the stakeholders in this proposal. So the TAC committee was really, they were missioned with 3 tasks. Number 1, come up with a list of projects. Number 2, come up with a monetary amount to collect. And then third, what was the total time frame to collect on that particular tax? So the committee started meeting weekly for about 2.5 months. They happened on Tuesday evenings, and I think they were supposed to last about a total of an hour, but I think many of them took much, much longer than that. So again, thanks to Dean Moss and the committee for doing that. So initially, the discussions were just more because we had such a wide range of backgrounds on the committee. Initially, we just started out with some educational pieces as far as transportation, what that means, what could be potentially in this tax. Then some of the initial projects were initiated, and again, rather than reinventing the wheel, the TAC committee looked at different plans, such as the comprehensive plan, the LAT's long-range transportation plan, impact fee project list, and the bike and ped master plan, as well as additional plans that exist. So the TAC committee reviewed other transportation sales tax from across the state as well to come up with that time frame, and they found that those ranged anywhere from 4 to 25 years. So the final recommendation from the TAC committee was a 10-year program, which would anticipate to collect $700 million. But different from what has been done before in the past, half of the program is anticipated to go towards specific projects, bigger projects in the community, and half of that would go then to transportation projects, smaller projects on scale to the bigger projects, but also things that we're not aware of today. So as we talk about a 10-year tax, we don't know everything that's going to creep up, things that are going to require additional attention at this particular point in history. So again, it gives us some flexibility to be able to address those issues into the future. So as we talk about some of the specific projects that are listed in this tax referendum or proposed referendum, $335 million would be proposed to go towards specific projects. So the first project we have listed, and again, some of these mean less to the town of Bluffton than others, but I think it's important just to see the multitude and the work that the committee had done, not only to address the most urgent needs in the community, but also spread those projects out across the entire community. So there's really a benefit to everyone. So the first project is the 170 improvements. If anyone's been out on 170, especially since COVID, I think everyone understands that there's capacity safety issues out there. So this is $80 million towards that 4.5 mile segment from 278 to 462. The second project for $20 million means a little more to town of Bluffton with capacity and safety improvements on South Carolina 46 from 170 to the Jasper County line, and then also safety improvements at intersections along 46 from 170 down to Buckwalter Parkway. And this is one that Charlie was very adamant about, making sure that all planned improvements would be designed to preserve that scenic bypass designation along Highway 46. So important one there. Bluffton Regional Roadway Network, $40 million. So again, looking at that LATS plan and prioritizing those projects, but basically $40 million for the town of Bluffton to come up and prioritize projects. And again, those would be then taken to Beaufort County for final approval. So just to refresh everyone on that 2045 long-range transportation plan, here are the Bluffton LATS projects. So we have Buckwalter Frontage Connector from Buckwalter Parkway to Willow Run, which is a new road. Bluffton Parkway from Buckwalter Parkway to Buck Island Road, which is a new road. Buck Island Road from Bluffton Parkway to US 278, which is access management. South Carolina 170 / South Carolina 46 from the roundabout to the Jasper County line, which is a widening project. South Carolina 46, South Carolina 170 from Argent Boulevard to South Carolina 462, which is a widening project. And then finally, Buckwalter Parkway from 278 to 46, which is access management. So again, those are existing plans that are in the long-range transportation plan today. So moving forward with some of the other specific bigger projects, there's a Hilton Head Island Municipal Project for $40 million. Again, looking at road resurfacing, intersection improvement, pathway improvements on Hilton Head. the Highway 278 project enhancements. So again, a big project with the 278 bridge. So again, making sure that we have the adequate funding to make sure that that project occurs as intended. Then we have US 21, Business 21, South Carolina 281, $75 million. This is downtown Beaufort as well as Port Royal, so really along Boundary Street as well as improvements along Rebo Road. And then last but not least is Lady Island corridor improvements. This is really taking a step forward from where we left off with the 2018 sales tax to again assure that those improvements occur as intended. So those are the list of specific projects. And here I'll list what those different programs or those anticipated programs are. So again, as I mentioned before, these are really smaller projects and projects that we don't necessarily know from day one are necessary. So gives us flexibility to be able to address those needs in the future when they may arise. So mass transit was the first program for $25 million. This is going to look at both transit and ferry needs in the community. We have a safety program for $50 million, again, looking at intersections, turn lane improvements, pedestrian improvements, things of that nature. Resiliency for $20 million, addressing flooding, sea level rise, issues where residents can't exit their property in the event of high tides or even major rain events. Dirt road paving, again, just providing that basic access to residents across the county to make sure that they have access not only in weather events but also for emergency access and whatnot. Resurfacing, so we've been doing this program for quite a while, but I think the difference is that this is resurfacing for all roadways in the county. So this would include state, county, as well as municipal roadways. So $60 million for that. Pathways to provide access for really all users, a transportation network for bicycles, pedestrians, whatnot, $50 million for that. $50 million for transportation technologies and access roads. So looking at making connections really off of those major corridors, again, trying to draw that traffic off our most congested intersections, as well as using some transportation technology, some things that exist today and some things that will be developed in the future, again, to really use smart technology to address traffic congestion in the community. And last but not least, green belts, so $60 million on purchasing green space to really limit the density of development throughout the community. So again, trying to take those cars from development off the road, again, to better address traffic congestion. So the implementation recommendations that came from the TAC committee to County Council was to develop a advisory committee. So similar to how the TAC committee had served County Council, this is an advisory group that would basically grade projects, look at priority levels. Again, this would be made up of different citizens throughout the community. They would also make a call for projects every year. And again, then they would weigh those based upon different criteria. And these are the programs that we would be looking at grading. Again, a matrix would be set up so we could look and prioritize each one of these projects, making sure that everything is transparent to the community and understanding what those priority levels are for safety, dirt road paving, resiliency, resurfacing, pathways, and then again, that transportation technology / access road program. So some of the additional recommendations that came from the TAC committee to County Council is issue revenue bonds so that we make sure that we're getting those projects out on the street. Again, I think everyone agrees there's traffic congestion out there today, making sure that we get those bigger projects out there just as soon as what we possibly can. So we would bond the bigger projects. The green belts, We would utilize rural and critical lands to develop a priority setting for those expenditures. And then mass transit, coming up with a comprehensive mass transit plan, working with Palmetto Breeze. Again, they're the experts on transit in the area. So again, working with them to come up with a master plan to get better utilization of mass transit throughout the community. So where does that leave us today? So there was a resolution adopted by council accepting the recommendations from the TAC committee. It went to, the process is 3 readings and a public hearing. So the first reading occurred and passed on May 23rd. The second reading was last night, which was tabled. So I'll back up just a second. So there was a prior presentation to this decision or this particular reading at council last night, and Senator Tom Davis has a proposal that he has brought forward for a 1-cent sales tax to basically address the green belts portion. So 1 cent that would go towards purchasing green space to make sure we're, again, addressing the density concerns across the community. So there was a lengthy conversation that happened at council last night. Council's directive was for staff to go back, reevaluate the transportation sales tax, as well as a proposal from Senator Davis, and come back with some recommendations for the next council meeting, which is on June 27th. So again, trying to keep our timeline straight, that means that we would have to hold a special county council meeting sometime in July, which typically they're on break at that point, to again make sure or assure that we're moving this forward, because it has to go to the state prior to August 15th to show up on the ballot this November. So I think that the 2 pieces that county council will discuss at the next meeting is, again, what that split could look like between transportation and green belts, and then also would the recommendation be for this tax to appear on the 2022 ballot or on a ballot at a later date. So that is yet to be determined. But again, with that, that's the end of the presentation, and I'd be happy, as well as Charlie, to answer any questions that you all may have.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I appreciate the thoroughness of your presentation. I do have a question on a item I see that was missing from here that's often raised as a concern from residents, and that's in terms of, is there a long-range plan on how you all will handle the maintenance of some of the roadways of the upcoming projects, in addition to some of the existing roadways we have currently where they often go, are left unkempt with not being maintained and mowed and things like that become an issue as people are driving?
Yeah, for the transportation, the particular transportation piece, we would be looking at, so the maintenance really has to do with more of our resurfacing piece. So again, we're developing what that program looks like right now and making sure that we're creating that priority list for all roads throughout the community. So again, in addition to resurfacing, there's different pavement preservations that we're also taking into account. So treatments that we can do that, especially on lower volume roads, may last us upwards of 20 years between paving. So again, looking at technologies, looking at different criteria that have been developed over the course of time, relying on our partners across the state, that again, no sense in reinventing the wheel, to follow some of those practices. Again, so that's, in the way of transportation, that's how we propose to take care of those maintenance needs.
Now, I get what you're addressing in terms of like road surfacing, preservation, and other things. I asked the question I did in terms of if there's a need to do further maintenance in terms of addressing the pathways that you currently have with the roads that the county owns that aren't being maintained. If there's a need for that, is that something that should be included in a presentation in terms of what potentially you all will do in terms of handling that, if it's currently not being addressed with the resources you have?
That's a really good question. And
If I could, one of the things we struggled with is the state guidelines for the transportation tax really skew towards new development, frontage roads, new connector roads, those type of things. And the maintenance aspect of it is covered in county budget and state budget and so on. And if we were to go too heavy on the maintenance side of it, it would not meet the state guidelines for a tax of this type. Okay. And if I could just real briefly, a couple of thoughts that might help you, that help me. In our discovery process and in our training process, we learned, because this is a big bite. I mean, we've done the penny sales tax for 20 years, and we've done it $100 million at a time, and it's done well for us. It's helped with a lot of the roads around here. This is a lot bigger, and this is a lot longer. And what we discovered is two specific examples I can think of. York County and Charleston area have done $1 billion. One of them, I believe, was a 25-year, and one was shorter. And what it has helped them do is to do more of a medium to long-range planning. What we're running into here in Beaufort County is, for example, the 2018 sales tax paid for the bridge to Hilton Head that hasn't started yet. So citizens are going, well, why do we want another tax when we haven't even seen what happened from the last one? So the length and the dollar amount, while it's hard to swallow at first, there was a rationale and a reasoning behind that. And I think for the town of Bluffton, and I think each area of Beaufort County needs to have their fair share of what's going on here. I think we ended up getting, I believe, what's a fair share. And we've got about $40 million more in this than we had when the project started, or when the committee started. But just a couple of side thoughts on that.
Real quick, to answer maybe Bridget's question, I can bring that up at LATS, and maybe we can get with Eric, because the county, if it's a county road, we should know what their maintenance schedule is, because when we build buildings, we always need to factor in how do you maintain that.
Absolutely.
So we can get with you later on that.
Absolutely, and I would encourage,
Sorry.
if you see areas that are deficient, please let us know. And again, sometimes it's just the system is large and we may not be aware of everything. So again, if you would share that with us, we'll do what we definitely can do.
Share
with
with you?
Yes.
Okay, good. You get his info.
I got just a couple of questions. So to prioritize any of these projects, that will be the same committee that we have now? What do you call it? So
No, our purpose had a start and an end, and the end was our recommendation to council.
How will that committee, what will that committee look like?
Yeah,
Is it going to have representation from?
It's going to be my thought would be that it's very similar. Again, it will be completely up to county council what that looks like, but I would think it would look very similar to what the TAC committee looked like, where again, it has representation from across the community. Ultimately, that would be their decision, but my guess would be that anybody that's on the TAC committee currently,
don't do that to me.
I mean, I would think that would be very important to make that decision and tell the voters, and us.
And council, I'm sorry, go ahead, I don't mean to.
So that it's not one of those, whatever they decide to do when they get the money, they're going to do what they want to type of things. Because, and one other thing that I caught on there, I thought I did, at the beginning of your presentation, one of the first three things was a huge amount of money from 170, no. The one that went from 278 to 462, that $80 million.
The top one there. Yep.
Right. Well, later in the other ones, I saw another one for whatever it was, 10 or $20 million for Argent Road to 462.
That was the LAT's priority projects. That wasn't
Right.
necessarily
Well,
part of this.
that's funding for the same project, right? I mean,
It could be. I mean, the development of those projects for town of Bluffton is really up to the town of Bluffton.
but that's not in our jurisdiction.
Well, but
I don't think
and
he's
Mayor
talking
might-
about the Bluffton Regional Roadway
No,
Network.
go
He's
to
not
the-
talking about that.
I'm
He's
talking about where it
something
said
else on
from 278 to 462,
the very first one.
The very first one.
Yeah.
4.5 mile segment for 80 million. Okay, and then later down in there, you go from Argent Road to right here.
Yeah, see, back
Right.
up. Second to bottom. See, that's LAT's project priorities. That's not the
That's just
same
That's a guide.
necessarily is what we're talking about. That's
But it's
saying
the
there's
same
a
road. It's the
priority, but
same-
it's no
same-
funding.
Right, and that was just to really show the totality of everything that's in the LATS plan right now. So again, your $40 million on the Bluffton Regional Roadway Network, that's being shown as a priority in any of the projects in the LATS long-range transportation plan, which is basically all of these projects. So again, one of those, like, as you're stating, is already being addressed by another project. So again, that would not, for the town of Bluffton, wouldn't rank very high, obviously, in that
And
list.
one other question I want to.
Well, can I address one thing on that?
Sure,
If
sure.
you could, go back one page, please. One of the things that the representatives that you appointed from Bluffton, from the different council districts and myself, looked out for the town of Bluffton, if you look at the second and third project on that page where we put in that the scenic byway would not be removed because we knew that was important to council and to the town. And we also worked together to recommend that that third one was significantly impacted by what town council wants. So you see it says Bluffton Town Council would designate projects to be undertaken. So even if, God forbid, this committee that's helping to oversee the implementation of it goes sideways, town council will still have, per the way this is being presented, a significant input into that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to beat this up, but when I read something, I got to get
Absolutely.
the straight answer.
Well, and I apologize that wasn't clear between those two guys.
And where you were talking about the recommendation, or right now, you think it would be better to bond those large projects. So when you do that, would that not put all the smaller projects way down the road? Because you have to guarantee that bond's going to be guaranteed from this penny as it comes in, correct? That's going to be your collateral, is the penny. So if you bond the big, large projects, really, 278 bridge, whatever it may be, kind of seems like to me that the smaller projects, whether it's May River Road or somewhere else, will go on the back burner. So we'll be in that 7th or 8th year of collecting the penny instead of a fair shot to get something done immediately because we need it done now.
Understood. Yeah, the idea on those smaller projects is again, you look at those bigger pots of funds. So again, it addresses what those immediate needs may be. So a smaller project, a less than $1 million project where we're looking at a turn lane improvement or whatever that may look like. Again, I don't think that that's going to necessarily compete with that bonding that we're talking about on those bigger projects. What it does do, though, is set aside some funding for things that may come up in, say, year 8 that we're not aware of. And again, as far as funding and that goes, it should transition pretty well for that.
Well, and the committee's thought process on the bonding was, instead of waiting for the penny to come in and paying for a project that costs 20 or 50 or 30% more later, bond as much as can be up front so the projects can start as the penny's coming in.
I've always supported that idea, even, here with some of our projects. My big concern was, I know that bond's got to be met. So I just want to try to figure out something where we're not, the smaller $2 million projects aren't waiting on the $200 million project before we can get relief on those places.
Mr. Hamilton, question?
Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton.
Maybe this is a last question, but it's a follow-up from Bridget's question about maintenance, ditch maintenance. Major rain floods that affect a lot of the same concerns about traffic flow or people getting in and out of their driveway. And we have roads in the town of Bluffton that experiencing ditch maintenance now. Is that a last question first before I go any further?
Well, we partially addressed it with resilience in here, and resilience is dealing with flood issues, whether it's floods related to high and low tides or whether it's floods related to rains that are filling up ditches.
Yeah, but when he explained it, he said flood related to high tides. So most of the roads I'm talking about is
That was one of the examples, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Okay. So it does cover
Stormwater,
with that, like, right now, we got, Goethe Road, Buck Island, and Simmonsville that we've been streaming at the county, and it seems like that's an ongoing, scream because nobody is listening.
So just to address that there, so this is why we come up with the criteria for each one of these programs. And one of those criteria that we had initially talked about is, again, talking to our public works folks, the ones out there that have to do the maintenance on those roads, because they're the ones who are addressing that when they do flood, to have to get that road back into condition or ditches back into condition. So any kind of citizen input or experience that our public works department has had, or even municipal public works teams have had, those would be addressed with that criteria in that flooding resiliency sea level rise program.
Next question is, traffic studies. Does this fund, it doesn't say anything about traffic study in this funding. How are we going to address the issue of traffic study if we're improving and maybe adding more roads, but there are developments that's going on every day, and it's a regional issue. So how are we going to address the traffic?
Yeah, so the regional traffic studies, some of those are going to be taken care of with LATs. There's going to be some room for some of those studies and looking at bigger countywide programs through the technology piece. And then also just, the developer requirements as they develop within municipalities or within the county, providing those traffic studies as a part of their development. So I believe we are going to, between really those three areas, we should be addressing those studies just as you mentioned.
Thank you for taking Bluffton concerns about the scenic byway destination, but it's congested and it's impacting traffic extremely bad through all. One time it used to be the busy hours, like early mornings and late afternoon, but today it's all day, every day. So is there any improvement that this committee can think of how we can better move the traffic from that scenic destination?
The goal, specifically, we discussed with Jared, who couldn't be here tonight, that we wanted him to meet with SDOT and get clarification on whether that can be four-laned and keep the scenic designation or not, or whether it has to be widened strategically throughout there. I have, Councilman Hamilton, I have a wife who commutes that route twice a day, and I hear about it every day. So believe me, I hear what you're talking about, and we did discuss it at length, the tension between the two. And I think the county and I think the committee communicated to the county that that's very important to accomplish both of those, accomplish the traffic flow, but keep the scenic designation.
Last question.
Yes.
Getting developers to put in traffic lights is always a challenge for us because of cost. Traffic lights, especially when we bring in a new development. Is there room if the developer can't put it in, because normally they probably wait until the end of the development to do it, or they have it in their contract but don't have to do it for 10 years or whatever. Is there any way we can get some of these funding to help? Because once the development come in, it's our problem and not their problem.
Yeah, that's really the reason for the traffic impact study, and it would define, basically when the warrant is met for that traffic signal. So again, it's federal warrants that have to be met. So there's about 9 federal warrants. There's a traffic impact study that if the development basically surpasses a threshold on the number of trips that it generates, then it's got to do that traffic impact analysis. And again, that should clearly state when that traffic signal needs to be deployed at that particular intersection. So again, that should be handled in the traffic impact study piece. Again, that's one of the things that we've talked about just as a county is looking at potentially having three or four traffic engineering firms that are on standby waiting to look at all development throughout, basically for any of the municipalities or any of the county developments. So again, we're looking at the same data and making sure that developers are not just hiring their own traffic engineers to come up with the studies. So that's an ongoing discussion right now.
Very good. That's the problem. Yeah. We have full development going on at one time, and they do one traffic study for this development, it's killing us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Wood?
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification on the resurfacing that you mentioned, and you had SCDOT included into that. And in the, when the sales tax, or excuse me, the gas tax was passed a few years ago, it's progressive because it could only take in so much money and do so much work in a given period of time. I know in the low-cog region, which is the four-county area, it's like $355 million for a 5-year plan right now being implemented. Most of the resurfacing is taking place in Allendale, Hampton, and Jasper counties, not so much Beaufort County at this time. My question is, state money's there, is coming, if it's not already for Beaufort County. You're not taking some of that off the table, are you, by working with the state?
No, we would, I mean, basically what and again, I haven't been here for long enough to know what that total amount is that's coming into the county, but this is basically to look at, they're primarily concerned with their interstate and primary routes. This is looking more at those secondary routes, the minor routes that may not get that immediate attention. And again, I think that part of what we're looking at is just making sure that as somebody drives into the community, they don't know the jurisdictional boundaries between, state, county, municipality, making sure that that experience is the same for everyone coming into the area. As far as the monies that we get or the state gets for resurfacing, I'd have to study that a little bit more.
Well, that's my whole point. I think you have to go back because, like I said, there's a 5-year plan being implemented right now. We might be year 2 or 3. And so when that winds down, there's a whole bucket full of money going to be coming back through. So maybe the roads, the secondary roads that you're alluding to, that funding might be after the period of time you're talking about. I mean, before that 10-year period is whatever. Well, I don't want to lose their money if it's available.
Yeah, and the committee actually talked about that. And if you look, I believe it's $60 million, and put it in perspective, that's over 10 years. And at current rates, I believe that's $2 million or $1 million does 2 miles. So that's $6 million a year. That's not much road. That's to augment what's already coming in. It's not to replace it. It was just to put a little bit more towards what's being done so we don't have potholes in areas that we have them now.
Is it $1 million a mile to resurface, or is it $1 million a mile for new?
It's $1 million to build, and we were told it was
That's what I thought.
It was $500,000 a mile.
Okay, that's what I thought. The second part of this is the information you brought up tonight about Senator Davis's suggestion. And I see what the point is. The point is to buy up property or whatever we can do to take, unit development off the table. We're all for that. But am I understanding that he's proposing that preempts or usurps what the committee has done or not?
So it was recommended as a 1 cent potentially moving forward. Feel like that the conversation that happened last night at County Council was they understood that it has to be a balance of both, a balance of transportation improvements as well as preserving those green corridors to limit density of development. So I think where we're going to end up is just a balance. So whether the tax remains at a 10-year proposal, or it is potentially a little bit longer, or what percentage of that tax would go towards green belts versus transportation. So as of right now, it's less than 10%. In this proposal right now, green belts is less than 10% of the total tax. So the discussion is whether that needs to be increased to kind of marry those two proposals together.
Okay, so it wouldn't preempt, like 170 is a disaster, we know it needs to be taken care of, so that would not preempt any of that.
The transportation tax is allowed to be up to 1%, and that's transportation.
Yes.
So that would be separate from what Senator Davis is talking
Well,
about.
then, is that muddying the water? That's the whole reason for my question.
I think he's working on that at the state level, is what you were saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So as of right now, counties can implement up to a 1% transportation tax to do all this. So what he's working on is separate.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a couple, and thank you very much. I hear all this land buying. I worry we're going to get rid of rural and critical lands, and I hope that's not a goal. Because I keep hearing Senator Davis and us buying land, and we already have a nice group in place that people trust and support. So I hope I'm just stating that. On your committee, we've done this in the past, and we did have a group, it was called BTAG, and it was elected officials from a lot of different areas, because we're the ones that are pushing and voting on resolutions for us to charge this. So I think it could be a mix, but I hope it's more formal, where we get a nice book and a binder, and what are the projects, and where's the impact fee, and the this and the that, and how it's paid for. So that's more of you don't have to answer. It's just an observation, but thank you. I appreciate it. Any other questions from anyone from that? Great. And Charlie, thank you for taking the time. It was more than 2 meetings, but I appreciate your commitment to it.
Yes, thank you for appointing me. I appreciate it. I did mumble under my breath a couple times at 8 o'clock at night when we were still meeting, but it was well done.
That'll keep you out of trouble.
Good luck.
Okay. Thank you very much. Come back. Give Bridget your contact information so we can get with you on maintenance. Okay, next is public comment. We have public comment only one time during our meetings, and then if you pull up the rules, when you come up, you just address council, and in speaking, avoid disrespect and confine yourselves to the questions that are under our jurisdiction. And we keep saying it, to be mindful and respectful of those who are in the room. Mrs. Gammon, you have public.
Kate Creech.
Kate Creech. Please state your name and address when you get up here for the record. I don't, she calls them now.
Mayor Lisa Sulka and Council, I'm Kate Creech. I'm at the Hayward House Museum and Welcome Center at 70 Boundary Street. And I just have a few updates for you all today. First, I'm going to start with a question. Do we need to start the clock?
Well, I'm ready. I was looking.
Okay, I will wait.
Hi. How many do we have? 3.
Okay. I'm going to start with a question. How many of you have signed up for our email newsletter, and how many of you have signed up for our new membership? Don't worry, I have forms and pens if you would like to find me afterwards, or you know where to find me at the Hayward House. We've been really busy since the last meeting. Year to date, we've already surpassed our goal for foot traffic. The goal was 11,500. We're nearly at 13,000. Our impact visitors, those are non-locals, so tourists. Our goal was 7,600. We are nearly at 7,800. Let's see. We've brought back the newsletter, and we're excited to continue collaborating with others to share local history and support and promote others in our community with like-minded visions. We are planning our member drive, which is going to be really exciting. I've also been hosting meetings with dynamic people in the industry to strategize new fundraising initiatives, as well as participating in webinars to get into a donor software program, and some coaching on how nonprofit budgets work. we're very excited to see what the rest of the summer has to bring. This Friday, I hope to see you all at the Juneteenth celebration at the Hayward House. I'll have a lot more updates for you at the next meeting, which I plan to have a presentation for you and some tangible things for you to look at, such as our new membership card and swag, which is kind of a funny word, but we are really trying to amp up the notoriety of our membership and what all it can do for our community. And let's see, sorry, I had one more thing. Oh, with our new statistics, we are projecting to have at least 15,000 visitors, which is a 250% increase from last year. That was it.
Thank you.
I have a minute to spare.
Makes it a minute short. Thank you.
Sharon Brown?
Name and address, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Sharon Brown. I'm at 163 Buck Island Road in Bluffton, South Carolina. And I would like to start out by saying our mission statement. You know, I like to go with the mission statement. So the mission statement says, we take care of our citizens, the town, and each other by continuously making our community organization better. And I want to put another little piece in there, make it diverse too, okay? So I want to start out by saying thank you, Stephen and Amy, for meeting with me in reference to the diversity of your staff here in these leadership, these upper management positions. So, Town Council, I think it's time for the town to implement equity and diversity inclusion workplace for your minority workers here at the town. They should be equal advancement opportunities within each department and training, and your minority employees so they can move up. There should be some transparency. After meeting with Stephen and Amy, I did ask some of the employees, you know, some questions that was said to me in reference to your hiring process and how you let people know, you know, what is being offered in the departments. And some of them answers were different from what was given to me. So you guys need to have some type of dialogue or maybe a survey with your minority employees to find out how they feel, because they don't feel like it's fairism when it comes to the jobs that are offered, how it's being presented, you know, if it's, you know, first hire within. I didn't get that impression when I asked them, okay? And also for your leadership, your internship program, you guys, the town, now you town officials should be looking around saying there's something broken. I shouldn't be coming up here talking about diversity. You guys should know that the look is totally not diversity. Your interns that I saw on the Facebook page, you have Bluffton High School seniors that graduated. Mia, you know them. Somebody should have been reaching out to those kids to put them in positions to be in these departments. It shouldn't be that we have an all-white leadership team for interns. And I think they're excellent students, don't get me wrong. I'm all for students. That's my number one goal where I am. But diversity has to be in this town. Something's broken. When I have to come up here, I'm black, you white, and you can't see what I see. Something's broken, okay? And also, with the 2 developments that's coming in Buck Island Road, that's kind of ailing us in, the 88 acres, the 88 homes, and then the 188, is there any way that the town can set up some kind of meeting with the residents on Buck Island, Simmonsville Road, so we can ask some questions? That's important. Traffic is going to be coming. The fabric of our community will change dramatically. Thank you so much for your time. And Councilman, did you get my text about helping my granddaughter? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon.
Skip Hoagland?
Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. Funny money and game of the monopoly. Ms. Sulka, I celebrated the $50 million award in your frivolous defamation lawsuit. Your ambulance-chasing Murdoch lawyer was able to win purely on your crocodile tears, your emotions, your drama, your legal theatrical play with no evidence or supporting law that I defamed you. You will never collect. Facts support that everything I said about you, Orlando, and Finger is true. I did not defame you. You defamed yourself because of your perjury, corruption, lies, and conflicts. Now the bar has been set at $50 million. Fair is fair. I filed the same $50 million lawsuit against you for violating free speech rights caught on video evidence. I believe your lawsuit was baseless, specifically filed to silence my voice, and obscenely profit you and your Murdoch lawyers' corrupt pockets. It's my right to criticize public officials as I see fit. You have a likable cheerleader personality, but your corrupt actions speak louder than your words. I contend You lied and committed perjury, which is a crime. You illegally did a membership drive using town employees to profit your crooked friend Bill Miles of the Hilton Head Chamber that harmed your own official Greater Bluffton Chamber. You illegally used tax money to join the town of Bluffton as a Hilton Head Chamber member, quid pro quo, not the legally operated Greater Bluffton Chamber until I forced you. You are illegally using tax funds issuing tax funds to Hilton Head Chamber to illegally be used with zero accounting, violating 8 tax laws versus hiring your own official Bluffton CVB chamber. You are a full-time real estate agent, a part-time mayor, using your insider status to profit your real estate business. This crook town lawyer Finger uses his inside position for real estate developer clients to profit. You both are in severe conflict. We need officials with no horses in the race who represent taxpayers' best interests, not their own. Total disregard for development and traffic as well. Finger developed a fraudulent tax contract for the illegally operated chamber and schemed with Orlando and town lawyers Coltrane and Gruber to help Bill Miles hide tax accounting. Finger lied. We all got the middle finger is what we got. In your lawsuit, Judges Goldsmith and Murphy committed judicial malfeasance. This is dangerous. Ms. Sulka, you, Finger, and Orlando are not fit to serve. I demand a forensic audit on all of you on the town accounting records. Your internal hired audit, I contend, is a fraud. Since this town has been caught at so many illegal acts and only shows the numbers that you town insiders want us all to see. Only a forensic audit will identify crimes like fraud, embezzlement, illegal tax use, waste, and overcharged legal fees, like what happened to the Hilton Head lawyer, Greg Alford, the crooked lawyer.
Public comment is over. Communications from mayor and council.
You could not be any more corrupt. You could not be any more
Public
illegal.
comment is
and you're
over,
in violation of FOIA
Public
as well.
comment is
You are a
over.
crook.
Thank
Why don't
you.
sue me for defamation for calling you a lying crook? That's who
Mr.
you are.
Steese, public comment is over.
Thank you very much.
We have communications. We are not going to make this a monkey show in this chambers. He had his public comment. We did not interrupt him. We do not allow clapping. Read the rules, please. Communications from mayor and council. Any committee communications would y'all like to speak about? Is there anything you'd like to talk about for the good of the public? Mrs. Frazier.
Certainly. So this is the week leading up to the celebration of Juneteenth, and we're definitely inviting everyone from the public to join us. You can find a detailed list of our events on the town's page, I believe. And on our social media pages, we will have the mayor read a proclamation for us on Saturday, and Councilman Hamilton will also be reading the Emancipation at the distillery is where we'll have our 7th festival. And we're looking forward to see everyone. It's free to the public, and we will have a kids zone area there as well. So please come out and join us.
Thank you. And it's on, the social media pages?
Yes, our social media pages on Instagram and Facebook are all Bluffton MLK.
I get paid to read?
No. Free snow cone from G-Mon.
Snow cone. Anything else, Mr. Toomer? Anything? Any committee you're on?
No,
Any
I'm
update?
good, thank you. I just lost all my train of thought.
We do have Soloco coming up, and I will tell you a question was asked, and I guess Eric left, but we don't know what's going on in other areas. So Mayor Williams was going to have every municipality and county come forward and just talk about projects that are going on. There's so many just around Bluffton, and sometimes we don't know what they are. So I think it'd be a good educational hour, and I don't know if that's this month or next month, but that was talked about. LATS, there's a transportation plan in place, and I think you noticed they added the north-south connector. On that, LATS is paying for a study, the transportation study, for the 462-278 Argent Boulevard Road, as well as Bluffton Parkway Future, to see if that truly is a need. So I think that will help. And other than that, we'll move on, if nothing else. Okay, public hearing and final reading. Consideration of an ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Article 2, Section 223, Establishment Boards and Commissions Member Terms, public hearing and final reading. We had first reading, and was there any change between first and second?
No, ma'am.
Um,
Have the motion up here in case you wanted to
Did y'all
just
want any
move
more
forward.
information on this? If not, is there a motion to approve the amendment to the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Bluffton, Chapter 3, Boards, Committees, and Commissions, Terms, Appointments, and Qualifications, Section 3.2, B6, Membership Terms to change the time period for considering reappointments?
We have to open public hearing.
And that public hearing, I will remove that, I'm sorry. Public hearing for this item. Thank you, Ms. Gammon. First call for public comment on this item. Second call for public comment on the item under public hearing and final reading. Third and final call for public comment on this item. Public comment is closed. I need to make that, a move to that motion. I just asked if someone would.
So I'll make that motion.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Formal agenda items. There's a second and final reading. Item 1 under Section 12, consideration of an amendment to the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Bluffton, Chapter 3, Boards, Committees, Commissions, Terms, Appointments, and Qualifications, Section 3.2, Membership Terms to change the time period for considering reappointment. Kevin, this second and final reading. Does anyone need a reminder, update? No changes were made?
No changes.
Okay. Y'all good? Is there a motion to move to approve the amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Unified Development Ordinance, Article 2, Administration, Section 223B, Establishment Boards and Commission Member Terms, Number of Terms?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Kevin. ATAX accommodation, and Natalie is not here, so is Chris the new Natalie?
Before Chris come up, please.
You may speak.
Terry? Yes. Thank you for being a sponge. Lisa, thank you for being a sponge. And audience, I just want you to know that this world doesn't need to be a sponge. We don't need to be beat up on anymore. We got too much stuff going on in this world to be continuously fighting over something that's been said 100 times already, and to be repeated and repeated and repeated. It's not necessary. We're just putting ourselves in this world of hate that doesn't do anything and doesn't represent God in any way. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well said.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I will be going over the recommended awards from the ATAC committee from the last meeting. We had 6 applicants, 5 had recommended grant amounts, and 1 was tabled to the next meeting. I'll go one by one. So the first we have is the DMO. As you all recall, you approved the DMO contract at the last meeting. Went through a public RFP process conducted by our Director of Compliance and Contracts. We had only a single bidder. It was reviewed by a committee and recommended to you all. You all approved the contract based on that legally conducted RFP process. This is their budget proposal to ATAC. And again, this is based on their 30% of state accommodations that they receive, as well as the ordinance of 8% of local accommodations they receive. The estimate for next year is about $500,000, and their proposed budget was based on that amount.
I'm trying to pull it up for you. So there's a breakdown of their budget for FY23. As you all recall, there was a conservative estimate in FY22 because the uncertainty around COVID, although FY22 estimates for them will be around $500,000 when they get their final allocations.
May we leave that there for a moment? I wanted to bring up something for council's attention. A thought. I'm not trying to change the budget since we're going to have our vote next week or whenever it is. 117% increase by law to go from $230,000 for a little community like ours of 30,000 people to $500,000 for our DMO is almost ridiculous. And I called town manager today. You know, some of it's mandated. The state tax is mandated that they get 30%. That's a big number. But we also, through ordinance, the town of Bluffton gives another 8%, which equals about $150,000. I don't know, maybe into the future, that that's necessary. I think these numbers are growing so exponentially so quick that it becomes a place and a point of time that it's ridiculous, in my opinion. How much money do you throw at it? If it's 5 years from now, it'd be $1 million to advertise our little community. So anyway, I threw that out there. I asked the town manager maybe to make some comments on that. If you want to hear them now, we can get all the way through this.
I want to hear him. I like your interruption.
Let's interrupt, but I do want them to go through everything, or we can go through one at a time and then vote on each one. Because it's a little different with you here and not Natalie, because she kind of gets the idea. Yeah, I have a question on his, I didn't know he was going to say that, but while you're thinking about answering it, is there a time we need to sit and figure out, and I guess this 8% is at budget time, workshop or first reading, but is there some time strategic plan where the DMO can come and start thinking out of the box of ways to spend that's other than advertising? I don't know if that's the case or not. Or is it to the point we have enough tourists? You know, do we want any more? And is that 8%, could that go to something that we could put toward where people touch and feel, like contributing structures that are nonprofits or things like that? So that was just my thought after.
Well, that breaks into exactly the conversation we had, and what I would talk about is to change that. It is an ordinance that we have, so we would need to go through and have that conversation. Part of it is it doesn't just go to advertising. Part of it does go to the operations for them to offset their staff that they have. Right now, based on what their operations are, what's going is accounting for about 28% of their administrative operations of their overall for the department for them. The conversation, if council wants to look at that 8%, I think we can start doing that. I think there's some conversations that can be had about what our expectations are. Like we talked about, the state aid tax actually comes with the formula that is set, says that we keep a certain percentage, a certain amount, then a percentage, and then 30% goes to the DMO for them to do the marketing and serve as our marketing organization. The 8% is something we choose locally. It's the first organization that I've been in where that has been done. I would go back and say that was probably done before we had more hotels here than we did now to help supplement that revenue that was there. Part of what Dan and I talked about this morning were just some quick things that we could look at is maybe there's a certain amount that we're good with, and then, let's say things go down for whatever reason, maybe we say we're good to support it up until this dollar amount, and then after that, we don't give any more of the local aid tax. It could be they're on pace to get about $350,000 from state aid tax. We may say we're good with the $350 or we're good with $400, and once we reach that, then we cap out without giving any state aid tax, or we could remove it altogether. But as you kind of talked about, there's plenty of projects that we can put that towards if we don't send it to them. There's things that will probably be coming down the pipeline soon that we can use it for, like public art or some stuff like that can be discussed. It's in our strategic plan. But I think it's definitely worth having a conversation with them and sitting down and making sure they understand where we're coming from before we move funds that they are counting on. I think it would be sitting down, going through, and it could be getting the questions answered on where those funds are being expended, how we're benefiting from it, and at what point, like you said, do we kind of reach saturation where we're getting everything that we could expect for our community at a certain dollar amount or a certain level, and have those conversations and make that let council make that determination whether they would continue 8% or not.
One more point for bringing this up, and my thinking was exactly what you said when I talked to them, and, you know, in theory, even with, say the 8% wasn't on the table tonight, it would still be a 26% increase, I think, wouldn't it, Chris, right around that?
Now, it would be, not just to, so we're looking at apples to apples, what we budgeted was based on our budget last year, but based on our revenues, they're actually going to be pretty close to what we're estimating for budget for 23.
Well, I meant they received 230, and then the additional money was 3-something, but regardless, the point is, this was set in motion, the 8% by ordinance. It has to be obviously undone by ordinance, so the budget will actually go through before we could ever get to this debate. Plus, I mean, we have to have a workshop or something to kick the tires on this thing and work it through. My whole point is obvious. The numbers are just getting to a point, how far do we want to really go for what we're trying to get for our little community?
So are we thinking, bring this up and think through the summer, but definitely by a strategic plan to start workshopping and get everyone around the table, because we're getting closer on Wright family property. I have some questions on this one other with the Gullah Center. That's going to be a needed marketing in a certain area. We've been kicking around heritage tourism for more years than I care to think, and, you know, is that a focus? And do we include that, think out of the box, you know, with what it is, but then moving forward, how do we really want to market the town? And I think we need to get our business owners and our residents, and I hate to say charrette, but kind of revive that and really find out, you know, are they happy? If they're happy, then it's, who are we to deny? So, okay. Anything else?
No, I'd just like to say that I definitely, thank you, Dan, for bringing it up, and I like everyone's thinking on that. I would also like to see, though, in terms of the state, make sure that we stay in compliance, because as much as we see that that's an exorbitant amount, we know that they set the rules outside of the 8%, but they set the rules on how much has to go to the DMO. So if they give us wiggle room, or if they're willing, if that's something we have to address with our representatives, I think it would be worth looking into.
So I thought I had all this. I had it on mine, but do you?
I included the
there's the motion.
recommended motion after each one.
Let's do it after each one. So any other questions on this one? If not, is there a motion to adopt the resolution for the 2023 budget marketing plan presented by Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce in accordance with contract 2022 to 2035 as the town, is that right? I know, I don't understand the dash.
Yeah,
That's the contract number? The contract number 2022-35 is the town of Bluffton's designated marketing organization.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is Bluffton MLK. Now I'm on the right page.
Yes,
Bluffton MLK Observance Committee.
Bluffton MLK Observance Committee requested $28,400 for their Juneteenth celebration. ATAC recommended $21,774 for advertising, facilities, municipal services, and tourist transportation. Any questions?
And we do have our chair here. I just saw him. Hello. So we have questions. We have our chair back in the back.
Pardon me?
We have our chair, sitting on a chair.
Mr. Brett.
Mr. Brett.
Yeah, but I think Bridget
I would
wants
also.
Oh, no, I was just saying we also have Sam in the back if anyone has
I would
questions.
also say for this vote, I do need to recuse myself.
So Ms. Fraser's going to recuse herself. You'll get her to sign that up. Okay. Any questions of the remaining council? Amount requested $28,400. Amount recommended $21,774. Is there a motion to accept the amount recommended?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, I did. Okay. Yes. Let's back up. Do we have any other questions?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the reason they didn't get the full amount?
I believe there are certain of the.
Thumbs up too. You want to come up and get closer? Yeah, because you had to.
Forgive me. I have Representative Rick. Councilman Hamilton, the total requested exceeded the 50% that we set by our rules to give any organization. So there's a cap to how much we'll actually award.
The amount of total?
50% of the total budget.
So they were qualified for it, but your cap didn't allow you to award it to them, is what you're saying?
So if I don't know if you see what I see, but where it says the 50% of project budget, it has the numbers broken out. And so you see we gave them the full amount that they qualified for.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. I'll sit closer.
Yeah, sit closer. Any other questions? Okay, there's an amount recommended of $21,774 to Bluffton MLK Observance Committee. Is there a motion to accept the amount recommended?
So moved.
Is there a second? I heard somebody. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's 4 and 1 recusal. Next is Bluffton Boys and Girls Club. Amount requested $10,000. Amount recommended $10,000. Mr. Forster.
Yes, so this is for advertising of their Bike Bluffton event.
You know what would be good? Each one just make sure the audience can see kind of how they do. That's good.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions about the Boys and Girls Club event? Any questions? Amount recommended, is there a motion to approve the amount recommended of $10,000 to the Bluffton Boys and Girls Club? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is Blufftongala Heritage Center.
Yes, the request was $60,000, and it was recommended to table this one until the next meeting.
I do have a question on that one. I'll ask. Anybody have a question? I'll ask first. So I read through, I love y'all's grading and all, and actually this is my favorite part to read the state tax money. But I'm confused over something that's given out paid upon receipt. They're not just, these groups aren't just giving money. When the town of Bluffton did the same thing for Squire Pope Cottage, and we were given the money. I'm confused how the two are different. So what were y'all's thoughts on that?
So the difference being is I believe the Squire Pope project, our understanding was it was permitted, it was finalized, and the project was moving forward. In this case, I don't believe there's a permit that exists per the conversation we had that day. There's not a final plan. There's not a final site plan other than the fact of the vision at this point. Part of the request was for advertising and promotion, but because none of it exists, the belief of the committee for the most part was that if you go and start giving money for somebody to promote something that doesn't exist, while they certainly can generate the advertisement for that, it was premature in that there's nothing existing for someone to come and see and do.
I have a.
Okay, you answered, that was a good answer, but yes.
Those points that you just made, I've seen requests come here that I had the same doubts about, but we awarded them the money. We gave them the money. And I can't give you, but I'm talking about years of this. And now, that's something that you're doing new because we did it before. Those same points that you said did not, they didn't have the, I guess you say the vision or it was, and someone came and said, this is what we want to do. And I matter of fact, I may have one. The group from Hilton had that now, and they think they changed it to was Hilton at Bluffton. I think it's what is that?
Symphony?
Symphony. You know, they were Hilton Head, and now but they bring things to Bluffton. But when they were Hilton Head, we gave them money, and I questioned it, but I still say let's do it. And this is the same feeling I have. If we're going to be consistent, I can support it, but if there's a hit and miss, then I can't, I don't have the understanding of when it comes to me to say, yes, I'm going to approve it. I want to be consistent. I want to be balanced too.
Yes, sir, I appreciate your concern. And so the request, and forgive me, I'm not sure it's up there.
If you go down a little bit,
Can't
yeah.
see the whole thing.
Yeah, it's right there. So it's 60.
So part of a large part of this was for a facility of building a handicap bathroom for a site plan that hadn't been approved. Until it's permitted and approved, and certainly we told the young lady, and I forget her name, forgive me for that too, she was a very good presenter, but told her, please come back with a permitted path to success as far as putting the cultures, the Blufftongala Heritage Center process together, and we would be happy to reconsider and in all likelihood approve it. We all were behind the program. Certainly, I think it would be a fantastic location. I think the overall focus of what they're going to do would be fantastic, and I believe all the committee members agreed with that. But we just felt that it was premature to support a business that it doesn't have a license, doesn't have a permit. They have a great vision. In your case, specifically, like we talked about the Hilton Head Symphony Orchestra, they were planning and had the plan to do the event already in Bluffton, which we approved that. I'm sure I was on that committee. Seems like I've been there for a little bit, more than a minute. So what we try to look at at least from my point of view as chair for that, is to look at an event that's going to bring people to the county or to the town and hopefully spend the night. But in addition to that, we want to make sure that we use the resources for something that exists. And it's a fantastic idea. I believe we checked with the town prior to the meeting. And you guys may know, Kim may know the answer, but I don't think they've got a valid permit for building it, or even tearing down the part they're tearing down, or even a use permit.
And again, I think your answer is valid. Like I say, consistency is all I'm looking for.
That's what we try to do. We want to be as consistent as possible. And I think, if y'all have been to our meetings lately, is we're really striving to make the process easier for the applicants and to provide guidance on them on how they can actually apply in such a way that they're able to generate more income through ATAX.
And I also want to commend you because you didn't say no, you said table, and you said if they come back, there's a good chance that they could get the approval.
Oh, we are fully hopeful that they're going to come back with a permit and go, here's everything, we're ready to rock. And that's our goal.
And I do, if I can ask a question on that, because I don't know. Why would a committee have to reach out and determine a permit if this is paid on receipt? If they could get the money and work on it, they don't get it until they provide a permit. I mean, I'm trying to figure that out because I really want to help them.
There's two parts that I can answer. Part of it was the permits for the actual hard facility. But when they were doing for advertising and promotion of their center, until there's a plan to have a center there, we didn't feel, at least I felt the consensus of the committee was, they didn't feel like we can promote something. So they could actually, if we awarded them
I can't figure out how it's broken down.
a part of it, and they were starting to do it, yet the project was delayed, and we know how projects can be delayed over a year period or something. They could already be spending money out there promoting their center that doesn't exist. And I know part of their budgetary and stuff is they're doing some stuff, and they had a whole pamphlet, but the young presenter, as good as she was, I don't think they had a schedule of events that didn't involve the opening of the center, like a scheduled set of events that they had on their schedule that she showed us in the presentation.
You're seeing what I'm seeing.
Yes, incorrect.
It said, that doesn't make sense what this is. This says June 17th and 19th at Burnt Church Distillery, but in that MLK, I just think that's not right. So
There's a,
We get them backwards.
did it get
Hold
put
on.
on the,
Oh, I just want to make sure that yeah, so that's not correct. That section is not for.
so where can,
I can answer some of this from memory.
I
because it's been
know,
more than a
because
week.
what you're
They have-
telling me, I was going to say, I would like to pursue the part, I think it's up to the town to give the money when any group asks and there's a building permit in place. If we approve it, they don't have to wait a whole nother 3 months.
The box is correct, but the part above it was incorrect. So the 24/7 was for advertising for the center. The facility, they were putting in, I think, Chris, about $50,000 for the ATAX to pay for the handicap bathrooms, and then some ongoing expenses for the project. There was a little bit of expense there. And without the permit to do the center and the area, we felt like all that was premature to do that. So once they had the permit and not just the permit for the building, but the permit for the center to go in there, because are y'all familiar?
Well, I want two things. I did not understand this part of the presentation. Could we talk about this next month and not wait 3 months and get the right information? Because I'm thinking, I don't know either how Natalie would know if there's a building permit pulled or not at an ATAX meeting. And
Well, as part of the review of the submission,
so,
Natalie, staff does due diligence on each of the applications.
so then I'm sorry. And then I go back, do we have a permit on the Squire Pope Cottage? Like, I want to be fair. And we got a lot of money for the Squire Pope Cottage. Why aren't we treating everyone the same? And we're not, and I'm not putting you on the spot, Heather, and I don't mean to, but why can't we initiate it and approve it, but no one's getting the money until they show they have a building permit? But they don't have to wait 3 months. That's where I'm torn with the building side. I understand the marketing of an event that has nowhere to go at the moment.
The committee.
I'm looking at anybody who wants to look back.
Yeah, so the committee has
I'm just so
discretion
glad
to-
you're smiling and not yelling.
The committee has discretion to review and approve these as they evaluate them. But I would just say that, to the chairman's point, if they're approved for certain expenditures based on something that is not yet in existence, there's a risk of the organization believing, all right, I've approved to make these expenditures, but then go and make expenditures thinking that they're getting reimbursed, and then something happens and it doesn't come to fruition. Now they're out that money and they can't really come to us and get those dollars back. So it's not only to protect the town, but it's also protect the organization from committee funds without the guarantee that it may get supported if the plans fall through. And they're already out of these advertising dollars or these other dollars, and they can't get the reimbursement back from the town because then the event never happened or the.
But Chris, her point, I hear you, but that still doesn't answer her question, Chris. Because if you approve it, or if we approve it, then you tell them it's approved based on these conditions. So you can't get the money so you don't spend the money until you bring us the documents or the permits that we need. So, but we still can approve it.
You could.
Yeah, that's the way.
You could, yeah.
That's the way to
There's
do it.
diligence on both sides. So
Yeah.
both from town staff vets all of the applicants. And they put together a cheat sheet for us for each event.
Thank goodness for them.
And so we review that. So I would say two things is not only were we, from staff, fairly aware there wasn't a permit for it, but also the presenter knew there wasn't a permit ongoing for the whole project yet. Ultimately what we do is give you guys
Yes.
recommendations based upon both the presentation and what we see and who we get to talk to. And for a long time, they used to come here too also and talk to you guys, and I didn't see anybody do that tonight. But so I'm sure that they would come back and represent, but we just felt that it was premature for them to be asking for those permits. And regarding your question about Squire Pope, if you're doing construction at Squire Pope, there better be a permit.
Well, I agree, but it's really not to you, and I think you do a fabulous job, and I don't think we've ever strayed. I don't think I remember going above or below anything that y'all done, because y'all do such a good job. I just don't know. I don't know. And I keep asking, and nobody is telling me we had a permit. So did we have a permit before we got the money from ATAX? And I'm guessing we probably don't, or didn't, or maybe we do.
Yeah, our understanding in the, about a 200-page document, that it was fully approved for the restoration of that house, and the money that we gave was specifically to shore it up so that the construction could begin. So
How much of that 60, is it a 60, how much of the 60 was going for the facilities, for the
So
bathrooms?
if you have your packet,
Well, I do
page
it-
209 of your packet outlines, it has the correct information.
So their total request was about
I'll go to 209.
70-something thousand maybe, and of the facility, 60 was going to the,
1,000 wouldn't be given until they had a permit and an approved plan. Am I right?
It would not be reimbursed until they completed the work, just like we do.
Right, upon receipt, which means they'd have to get a building permit.
They'd have to go through all the process, and once complete, then they could apply for the 45,000. And then the 15,000 would be for marketing, so they could use that for marketing just like anybody else does.
Now I understand. Definitely understand that.
so our delay in that was, there was nothing that was going to create an issue for them until such time as they had a permit on the construction side to begin the project. So
Okay.
we just, personally, I felt like that's why we gave them, table their motion or their request until they come back and give us a more concrete.
The other thing too is the rating sheets that were revised by the town 6 years ago. Those are helpful. I mean, I like to see them completely filled in, but they're helpful. And so that plays into your awards, the amount of money you give. Right?
Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
You should.
So we complete those. In the old days, they would go to staff and they would put it all into a spreadsheet and give it back to us before we voted on it. Our new procedure right now is that we're filling out those score sheets and we're returning them in at the end, because now we're voting on a motion or on the applicant at the end of each application, as opposed to the pre-COVID stuff, where at the end, we would turn in score sheets as each applicant came in. Staff would compile them into a spreadsheet, give them back to us. We'd see what the total score was, and then we would make our motion. If you go back even really far, we used to have to worry about how much was left over at the end to say we got $30,000 to give to 8 applicants. We got to do a best.
Well, let me ask this again so I'm clear on your answer.
Okay.
I was on ATAX when Shirley created the scoring sheets with staff. And they were there so we wouldn't just nilly-willy, because when I was on ATAX, people would go, we got $100,000 here, just give them whatever they want. There was no methodology to it. So the town created that, so there is a guide for us to also weigh, based on the scoring sheet, the amount of money that should be awarded in the process. Are you saying that we are doing that, or are we not doing that?
I would say you guys are doing that.
We don't have a scoring sheet on any of our things that are given anymore.
There's one in the packet out of 4.
So again, we've changed the way that we tax in this. We've done it now for 3 meetings. That we're no longer turning in score sheets, waiting till the end of the session, and then voting to award the money. So when each applicant comes up here, we score, and then we make a motion, we have a discussion, and then we make a vote. So we're not necessarily looking at anything other than our own score sheet. We're not looking at the
cumulative amount. Then the system's not working the way it was designed.
I was on this system when it was originally designed,
Right.
and there was a world of difference between then and now.
Right.
Well, that,
Yeah, I'll talk with Nadia about that process and re-implement it in some form or fashion. It may
And
look
let-
a little bit different.
and let us know too, because I know that sheet on that particular one, on one of them had zero. So you do one, but if it's something that could be better, and you've been doing it longer, and I was on ATAX when we only had $1,600 to give out.
So
And it was a chore.
We had a workshop about a year ago now with an opportunity to change both the handbook, the score sheet, and the application process. And I believe that staff has gotten a little closer to getting that back to us, but it's something that's still ongoing for us to do as far as our handbook, the whole process. So towards that end, yes, I would be happy to continue to do a scoring compilation for us to look at the end and then go back to vote. That's why we used to do that. And one of the meetings that I wasn't at, they thought this was a much better process.
You left, you weren't there.
The thing about the scoring sheet, as I just stated, was so things are not just arbitrary. So there is a standard, there is a methodology to figure out how to award how much money based on the criteria that the town determined years ago. That being said, even if you compile the score sheet and you follow the rules, council still has it as their prerogative if they want to change something at any given time. For example, if the score sheet says they should only get X, but council thinks they should get Y, we still have the opportunity to do that when it comes before us. But I think we have to get back on track with our methodology. That's just, I won't say anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you do a great job, and I want you to know that. So if we ever go in a different way, it's not because of the respect we have for what you do.
Sam, thanks. Yes.
We're sending it to y'all.
I know. I love it.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Y'all did the hard part.
Thank you.
Great
No,
job,
it was
buddy.
really good information, though. Okay. Any other questions on that one?
I'd like to move that we award the funds with the
Councilman
conditions.
Nelson, I'm sorry, before that happens, Kim, I need to recuse myself on this one.
Ms.
Also, I
Frazier
didn't
is
know you were
recusing
voting.
herself.
I'd like to move that we award the funds and with the conditions that they have to provide the permit before the building money is awarded.
Does that include the advertising component also?
It includes the advertising, but I'm not putting any stipulation on the advertisement.
It's normal stipulations, like pay on receipt for all of that, really, isn't it?
For a total of 60,000.
There's a motion, let me get a second, then we'll discuss. There's a motion to recommend 60,000 of the amount requested to Blufftongala Heritage Center. Is there a second? And then we'll discuss.
Second.
Any discussion there? Stephen, yes, it's the full 60.
So it'd be 45, it'd be 15 for advertising, 45 for facilities. For
And if, I got a question on that. Say the advertising, it's there, they end up not doing it, or how long do you have to spend this money? You have to spend it on what you applied for?
Right.
Gotcha. So you use it or you lose it?
2 years. 2 years.
2 years for that same thing. Okay. Any other discussion on this?
I'm going to abstain on this. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know enough about it. I know that we've never, not since I've been on council, if we didn't go through the proper procedure that Sam and the committee, we allow a lot more money in some instances or less. But with a total, without the right proper documentation and stuff that we tell them to get to qualify, I'm just going to abstain from the vote.
But that's what I just put in the motion, Larry. They have to approve, they have to get the.
I realize that, but I don't think we've ever done that either. Not in my memory.
Any other discussion? We have 1 recusal, 1 abstention, 3 voting. All in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 3, 1, and 1.
All right, the next one we have is the,
Hilton Head Symphony Orchestra, amount requested 38,374, amount recommended 38,374.
this is for 2 events.
Scroll up just a tiny bit more.
One for October 20th with Arts and Seafood Festival, and a holiday pops concert on November 26th. And this is for advertising and the facilities fees.
Any questions on this? I don't know if y'all went to the one in the park. I've never had so many positive emails in my life. So it was good for young to old. It was amazing. So you can just get them to change their name.
Yes. That's part of the grant.
Doing business as Bluffton Symphony Orchestra.
I thought this was going to be an easy night, but I'm going to recuse myself from this vote because this
you
is
attend?
affiliated with the Arts and Seafood Festival, which I am a.
Okay, so Mr. Trimmer's recusing himself. The four of us can ask questions. Any questions of the four of us? Okay, amount recommended 37374. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
That's 4 and 1 recusal. Anyone recusing theirself over a historic Bluffton Foundation? I guess I am. So Larry, you're up.
Okay.
All right, so this,
I can't see the whole thing.
You got to scroll up.
Lisa, you don't have to. You
My
don't have to-
husband's a chair.
Yeah, but you
is
don't
the-
have, as
is
long as you
the-
don't vote, you can still do it. You just can't
I don't
vote.
think I can talk at all. I'm not, Kim said no, I believe her. I'm giving you where it says it. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
We'll give it back to me.
I don't say nothing about
Okay,
this.
Larry, you're up.
Let's let Chris kick it off, and Larry can ask.
So the Historic Bluffton Foundation, this is part of their annual budget request. They have a budget of $175,000 for the Welcome Center at the Hayward House. Here's the breakdown of their budget. And again, they are, Hayward House Welcome Center is handled differently from a DMO. They are handled on a reimbursement basis. So they submit to us expenses and are reimbursed actuals up to their budgeted amount. Any questions on this?
Any questions from council? I don't see a motion either. Is there a printed motion?
Want to make sure you saw your chart. There you go.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution renewing memorandum of agreement with 2017-69 for an additional fiscal year term beginning on July 1, 2022 through Amendment 4 between the Town of Bluffton and the Historic Bluffton Foundation for Welcome Center Services? Is there a motion?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. I guess you told her that you were,
I told her.
okay.
Okay. Anybody need to recuse themselves from Society of Bluffton Artists? Any artists in the room? Okay. Amount recommended $16,063. Amount requested $16,063. Chris?
And this is for the advertising promotion for regional marketing.
Excuse me.
For the Gallery Education Center located at 6 Church Street in Old Town.
Any questions? If no questions, is there a motion to approve the recommendation of $16,063 to Society of Bluffton Artists?
I'll make that motion, but then I have a question.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Chris, their total budget number over here, I should have asked this at the beginning. This is just for this quarter? Or is that for the year? Okay,
I believe it's the year.
thank you.
I was back here.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sam got me.
Okay, that's it. I love seeing the list of people. I hope we can do more workshops to get the message out that this money is available, because we have a lot of money we need to hand back out to the community. So, well done. Thank you very much.
Hayward House?
Yes, we did that first, yes. That was Historic Bluffton Foundation. Okey doke. Thank you, Chris. And tell Natalie we miss her. Next is consideration to authorize fund not to exceed individual project budget amounts for as-needed materials testing and inspection master services agreements with GHD Services, Inc. and F&ME Consultants.
Evening.
Oh,
Good evening,
you're not
Mayor.
Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Hey.
She's off to Greenville. I have no idea. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to request approval to authorize funding to exceed $100,000 for as-needed materials testing and inspection services. As you know, any contract over $100,000 needs town council approval. Back in November of 2020, we put out a solicitation for requests for qualifications for materials testing and geotechnical work, and we received 4 applications, and we selected FM&E and GHD. They're both Beaufort County firms, and they've done well for us. They've been under contract for about about a year and a half. Okay, let me catch up. Okay. And one of our contracts with GHD is approaching $84,000. And we kind of expect with the upcoming construction contracts that we're going to have in the next 3 or 4 months to start construction projects that we'll need to exceed that $100,000 amount. Next slide is just the background of the work that those companies do for us. A lot of geotechnical work before and during design, and then a lot of materials testing and inspection services during construction. And we have some SCDOT projects coming up that will require these folks to work alongside of us. So our recommendation is for town council to authorize the town manager to allow for the total expenditures for the materials testing and inspection master services agreement to exceed the combined aggregate threshold of $100,000 for multiple CIP projects during the life of the agreement. In this case, they're annual agreements, but they can be extended up to 4 additional years. While the aggregate payment to each firm may exceed $100,000 over the span of the contract term, services provided for each project will not exceed the budget amount for any particular CIP project. So the funds for the materials testing master service agreements are paid for out of the CIP project budgets. So there's kind of net zero effect on the budget. So really, the next steps would be approval of this request will allow CIP Group to continue with additional geotechnical and inspection services as needed to complete our CIP projects for the upcoming years. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think there is a motion in the packet.
I have a dumb question.
Any questions, Mr. Hamilton?
I have a dumb question.
Give me that.
What material are we testing?
Well, during construction, you're testing your base for compaction, you're testing your asphalt, your concrete for, strength, those kinds of things. So those are kind of things. And during design, we're doing borings or that kind of thing to determine what the compaction level is on the existing soils, that kind of thing.
That's above my pay grade, engineering. Gotcha.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve authorizing the town manager to allow for total expenditures from the materials testing and inspection master services agreement with GHD Services, Inc. and F&ME Consultants, Inc. to exceed the combined aggregate threshold of $100,000 for multiple projects during the life of the agreement, but not to exceed individual project budgets? There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Good job for fill-in. You did great. There's a consent agenda with 5 different items listed. They're all very important. I know you've read through them. Is there anything you want to pull for further discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Did everyone vote in this room? Has everyone voted? You have 10 more minutes.
They had a madhouse at the day. I mean, they had to
You
call.
said you didn't vote.
If you hadn't voted, it's too late now.
If you didn't vote, you cannot complain, Joe Crowley.
got time to go?
Is there a motion?
You got 9 minutes,
Is there a
whoever needs to go.
motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're done. Thank you.